The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Ia Male Ava.
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
The Dave Hooker Show. A presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Objective insight, expertise, top guests. Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free. Also available on offthehooksports.com.
I compute and obey.
Now to Dave Hooker.
Ready.
Thank you for your patience. Some technical difficulties with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. I hope you had a fantastic weekend. Plenty to talk about. There is. Celebrate some Vols as they take the next step. And Candace Parker calls it a career. So we've got a lot going on. Can you please hit that like and subscribe button to be a part of the program? And we would greatly appreciate that. So Caleb Calhoun, as we look back to the draft, first, I will say, how are you, sir?
I hate my Titans. That's all I know. I hate them so much. I despise them.
I actually like the Titans draft, but that's the topic for another show. Let's look at the Tennessee guys for just a second. If you're Jalen Wright and you were to pick one team, location, offensive firepower to go to, would you have picked the Miami Dolphins?
Yes. Yeah. Given what they do, yes.
Or maybe the Chiefs, but the Chiefs were short on a speedster, which I think they picked up in the draft. But I think Jalen Wright's going to make a couple of Pro Bowls.
I do too.
Be really surprised if he didn't. Let's get now to today's tough question. Today's tough question is brought to you by our good friends at BetUS.
Sportsbook and Casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
All right, Caleb, I want to ask you, is it time to officially put the can Josh Heupel recruit on the back burner? Is it done? Absolutely done. Has he proven to the point? That was the big question leading into this. Now Josh Heupel has helped himself with what he has done in the draft recently, in particular this weekend. So let me get your thoughts on what Josh Heupel has done to change his reputation before we get to the NFL players and where they ended up.
I can't say he's done much to change his recruiting reputation. I mean, looking at the 3 that were drafted, I mean, yes, he did go pick up Joe Milton in the transfer portal, and he picked up Kamal Hadden in the transfer portal, but Jalen Wright was a Jeremy Pruitt guy. And so I can't go here yet to say this helps his recruit. It'll help his recruiting because he can say, I can help get you to the NFL, but this doesn't validate his recruiting just yet.
Absolutely. And by the way, good morning to everyone. We appreciate you being a part of the program. With Josh Heupel, when you look back at what he did at UCF, it's hard to put he prepared 8 guys for the NFL. But some of those guys were recruited before him. Some of those guys got his development. So it's tough to really extrapolate numbers from that because they have limited resources compared to a Tennessee. But I'm of the mindset that when you produce, so here are my thoughts, and it's in a column on offthehooksports.com. You're known for this passing offense, right? You're known for high flying and scoring a lot of points. Well, you just produced an offensive lineman that went in the first round, number 1 in the SEC last year in Darnell Wright, and you've gotten Jalen Wright, who is now the top SEC running back, who was drafted. And that's surely a sign of a pretty good offensive line. Plus, Glenn Ellerbe, who I think deserves a big fat raise, had to deal with an injured offensive line. I could make the case that thanks to Ellerbe and the development, that he is the most valuable coach on Tennessee's staff.
Oh, yeah. Josh Heupel lets Glenn Ellerbe do his job. I think Josh Heupel has really trusted Glenn Ellerbe. He has moved around offensive linemen extremely well. I think there's a couple of NFL draft picks on this upcoming year's offensive line. So that's going to show out even more. The other part is it's not really outside of receiver, because Cedric Tillman and Jalen Hyatt were both drafted, and then Ramel Keaton just signed with the team. Outside of there hasn't been like a consistent through line over which type of players get drafted by Josh Heupel. I mean, his first highly touted draft pick was a cornerback in Alontae Taylor. And we all agreed that Tennessee's secondary is absolutely atrocious, but Alontae Taylor got drafted. And then Kamal Hadden got drafted this past year. Again, though, the thing I'm going to say is there's nobody that Josh Heupel has recruited that has gotten drafted yet from Tennessee. So we don't, and we're going to talk about this a little later, but I don't necessarily think Joe Milton being drafted is a testament to Heupel's recruiting. He fell in love with Joe Milton's arm in the transfer portal. Joe Milton was desperate and landed with Heupel, but that was a bad fit from the start. So I'm not really going to say that as a testament to Heupel. Kamal Hadden, I'm trying to remember because it was right around January during the transition of Jeremy Pruitt to Josh Heupel and that whole firing, and we knew it was coming and we had to wait 3 weeks. During that time, Kevin Steele was like an interim coach for a minute, and Brandon Turnage committed to Tennessee, as did Hendon Hooker, as did Kamal Hadden. Those three committed around that time. I can't remember if Kamal Hadden committed before or after Josh Heupel was hired, though. But I don't think Josh Heupel had a lot to do with landing Kamal Hadden.
Well, here's my argument why you can completely put that reputation to the side. And you may disagree, but my argument is that Josh Heupel has won some of the elite recruiting battles enough in the Nicos and the Pierces of the world that I think he can go toe-to-toe with anybody in Georgia. However, is he going to be the tireless, incredible recruiter that a Nick Saban was or a Kirby Smart probably is? No, and I can understand that. But the player development side, so if you're recruiting at a B+ and you coach them up to an A+, does it really matter how you get to an A+? Now, it's the Jimmies and the Joes. I get that. But I think the player development offsets to some extent any questions about recruiting, which I don't think there should be any questions anymore at all. I think it's consistently gotten better and better. Brought to you by Boundless Moving. From their 2-hour minimum to turnkey operations, they have you covered. That's Boundless Moving. Check them out. They move me. They can move you in East Tennessee and Charlotte. So what does it take then, Caleb, for you to say, not worried about Josh Heupel at all anymore about recruiting? He is nailed it. Does he have to get the #1 class in the nation? Top 3, top 5?
Some of his own recruits have to get drafted. That's the way I would look at it. Some of his own recruits have to get drafted. Now, we're going to talk about this actually later in the week. So your
question is about talent evaluation at the high school or transfer portal level. It's not necessarily, okay, about how they're getting developed or him winning battles. Those are two different things. Okay.
Yes, exactly. And by the way, Tennessee is having its most NFL draft success since the former years right now under Josh Heupel. That is true. But if you look at the teams drafted this past weekend, scouts sometimes, very often, by the way, and we're going to talk about this later in the week, overvalue teams based on the players based on the team's success. So Tennessee's had its most team success since Philip Fulmer. So by its very nature, they're going to have more players being drafted. And I think that's kind of a, Dave, you know this. People are going to hate on me for saying this. I don't care. Many scouts, many of these GMs, they don't do the full amount of research, do they? They're like, oh, that guy was on a good team and, he started, so maybe I'll take him. And I think that happens more often than we know. And I think because of that, Tennessee's team success has led to them getting players drafted. So I do think this is where it helps Josh Heupel it will help Josh Heupel to recruit. You can't really say that Josh Heupel doesn't get you ready for the NFL. That's not something you can say. There's the whole idea of like, oh, this gimmicky offense won't prepare you for the NFL. Well, no, that's not really true, actually. This gimmicky offense will prepare you for the NFL.
Okay, well, I'm going to step further. I'm not worried about recruiting at all with Josh Heupel anymore. And it's not just because of the draft. It's because of the trends. And I did a lot of research because I had no life. over the weekend, and I think it's trending upwards. And you said the Fulmer thing, you stole that out of my mouth. It is. It's the greatest run of talent Tennessee's had in well over a decade. Now, several Tennessee players signed free agent contracts after the draft. We want to get to that, but with Josh Heupel, is he a proven commodity as a championship-worthy coach at this point? Whether or not he wins a championship depends on a lot of things. It's an oblong ball. It can bounce a lot of different ways. But is Josh Heupel proven to you, and I want to ask our message board too, has he proven to you, just based off what he's produced to this point, that he's a championship contending coach? Because they're going to have an intact offensive line and a generational quarterback coming back this year.
Are we basing this off just what he's shown on the field, or his personnel assembling and players having gotten drafted?
Well, I think you're going to say that you still have questions about you're not ready to say championship worthy until the recruiting aspect.
No, I'm ready to say championship worthy, but not because of his recruiting, because he still has a good collection of players he inherited. Plus he found the right quarterback for this year. But so because of that, I think he's championship worthy on the field. I don't know if put it this way. Josh Heupel, if he becomes a championship coach and brings in championship talent, it'll be because of what he did on the field, which helped bring in more talent. I don't think Josh Heupel is the type of coach that could recruit a championship caliber program before he actually had the success. Does that make sense, what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, but that's the chicken or the egg, because he could go to a high school and have success with his offense and throw up 70 points, and he'd get noticed by a smaller college, and he would go up on the ladder. So it's chicken or the egg. I mean, I think his offense attracts talent, and then I think talent makes his offense better.
Okay, yeah, but I that's fair. I guess where I'm at, though, is, okay, like when Nick Saban went to LSU, he assembled a roster of championship talent and then went and won a championship, right? It wasn't like people were like, oh, this Nick Saban is here. Let me go commit to him because he's done so well on the field. No, it's just he did a great job recruiting. Is that fair? Like the recruiting came first for Nick Saban, didn't it?
Yes, but we could get into the whole Louisiana and how easy it is to recruit there as well.
That's true.
Kyle on our Banks and Jones message board says the two best players on the team he recruited, Nico and James Pierce Jr. That's the way I'm looking at it. The way that it is trending seems to be very positive for the Vols. And if somebody came to me right now and they said, what's your number one concern about Josh Heupel, I would say I think he can get stubborn and gets enamored with some offensive numbers when he wants to put up a few more points than maybe he needs to. But those are pretty minor criticisms.
They are. They're very minor criticisms. And honestly, the only reason they may not be minor is that way of thinking can sometimes get you a little impatient. But honestly, Josh Heupel, to a lot of people's chagrin, doesn't get impatient. He actually sticks with his game plan. You ever notice that? Like, one example I always bring up is, and this is why I don't question really him as an on-field coach. Last year, people were so mad at him for not airing out the ball more in the second half when Tennessee was down to Florida. Remember that?
Yes.
They didn't realize that Tennessee can't do what they need to do unless they stick to the ground game, no matter what the score is, no matter what the clock says. And quite honestly, as you know this, what people didn't understand is Josh Heupel is the offense he runs is so uniquely positioned where you can still run the ball when you're playing against the clock because they move so fast. And so it doesn't really work against you.
Then they just stop at the line. All right, so our poll question that is up now, do you root for Joe Milton in the NFL? Fervently, he's a VFL, gets 79% of the vote. Vote now, please. Nah, ready to move on, gets 21% of the vote. I want to get back to what I deem championship worthy. And then I want to get to the free agents that signed. We've got some breaking news on that. By the way, Jacob Warren will join us later in the program. So hit that subscribe and like button if you want to be a part of what Jacob has to say. He's going to the Patriots. When I say championship worthy, I mean if you take over the program at Georgia tomorrow, how many coaches by that definition are championship worthy? probably 25. If Sonny Dykes can make the playoffs at TCU, it's quite a few, right?
I think 100 coaches are championship worthy at Georgia. Georgia is one of those schools where bad coaches can win national titles. Like really, 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 really bad coaches can win national titles. I think if Ed Orgeron was hired, I think Les Miles, there you go. Les Miles could win a national title at Georgia within 3 years.
Brutal. So incredibly mean. We've got free agents signing, and they are all over the place. And our guy Jacob Warren got a really, really awesome spot. We'll talk about that in 60 seconds. Check out my friends at Dynasty Pools and Spas. You know, the best thing about Dynasty Pools and Spas is that they've got it all taken care of. What does that mean? Well, you stop by their showroom and check out their fantastic selection of top-notch spas in that showroom in Athens. Make your pick and get ready, because Dynasty Pools and Spas delivers within 125 miles of that location in Athens, that fantastic showroom. They've got the cover lift, steps, chemicals, and everything you need. Delivery at no extra charge. They're just down the road in Athens. You pick the spa you want, and it'll be there for you. Oftentimes discounted with military and first responders discounts. Also blemish models, or just mention Off the Hook Sports. That's Off the Hook Sports for $500 off. There's a discount for you on spas made right here in East Tennessee. Support local. Dynasty Pools and Spas also has the best chemicals for you and your spa and your pool. No fillers, just the chemicals made right here in East Tennessee. Support local. Dynasty Pools and Spas, $500 off if you mention Off the Hook Sports. $500 off if you mention Off the Hook Sports. Dynasty Pools and Spas, dynastypoolsandspas.com. All right, let's get to the guys and where they actually went. Certainly helps Josh Heupel, but helps their bank account quite a bit. So let's go ahead and get started with what you call the anti-Tom Brady going to New England. Our poll question is up on the YouTube page now. Do you root for Joe Milton in the NFL? Fervently, he's of all. Nah, ready to move on. So why do you say he's the anti-Tom Brady for those that haven't read your call?
Okay, so we're going to stick with Joe Milton. And Joe Milton, for those who don't know, was drafted 6th by the New England Patriots. I don't get this draft pick at all. Joe Milton, like the Patriots built a franchise and a legacy on Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. And now they have a Bill Belichick protege and former Vol Gerard Mayo going there. The whole concept is they want smart quarterbacks who, and I'm not saying Joe Milton's not smart, but I'm talking about that process quickly, who are very, very accurate that may not necessarily have the biggest arm or be the most athletic. Tom Brady in 2000 fell to the 6th round for a few reasons. He had a horrible combine. He was completely unathletic. And it was the reverse of why Joe Milton fell to the 6th round, which is he's completely athletic, but he struggles with his decision-making and his accuracy, which Tom Brady didn't. There's another factor. There's another layer to this. Tom Brady had trouble, as you remember, Tom Brady struggled to maintain his starting job in college. Now, Joe Milton did have a starting job this past year. It's funny because Tom Brady struggled to maintain his starting job while competing against Drew Henson, who was the all-world future of the program. And Joe Milton was competing against Nico Iamaleava, who is the all-world future of the program. Joe Milton held his. Lloyd Carr made the stupid decision to not start Tom Brady for 2 of those games. By the way, if Tom Brady starts every game in 1999 at Michigan, they may win the national title. They probably lose to Florida State, but they're at least in the game. And so they both had trouble keeping their starting jobs because Joe Milton did lose his to Hendon Hooker. They both went in the 6th round in the 190 range. Joe Milton was 193rd. Brady was 199th. They're both going to first-year head coaches. Milton going to Gerard Mayo, Brady going to Bill Belichick. Oh, and by the way, might I add, both played at Michigan for a time. So
yes. That is interesting. That is a lot of correlations. We talked about Jalen Wright going to the Dolphins. Do we agree that is hands down the best fit?
We'll get to that in a little while. I want to save that. Let's stick on Milton for a minute. I want to talk about Milton. And
let's do that.
So,
here are my thoughts. If this were Bill Belichick still the head coach at New England, he'd be playing tight end. And Dylan said this on the message board. He'd be playing tight end by the end of next week. But he's not. And I think Gerard Mayo, the head coach, who was a former linebacker for the young ones with us at Tennessee, I think he looked at Joe Milton like a lot of people would look at Joe Milton in the 6th round, and that is there is so much upside. You and I know that there's accuracy is going to be an issue. You and I both get that. But when you just look at him, especially when your head football coach played football at a high level and he tells you he's good enough to play, you have to trust him, even though Mayo might know that he's not good enough to play.
I can't imagine how Mayo.
This felt like a hometown discount to me. This felt like we got this late pick. We need a quarterback. We drafted one earlier. Let's give it a shot. That's what it felt like.
And it felt like because Gerard Mayo went to Tennessee, he's kind of a little biased to a former Tennessee guy. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not. Yeah, it's 110% what I'm saying. Yes. And now that happened a lot. Now it's not the right way to go, but I'm just throwing that out there. It happened a lot with the Titans. Remember Joey Kent, and it was about selling a couple more tickets. Well, in this case, I think it's about, hey, I know this guy. He's a really good dude. And for those that don't know him, if you don't know the good character part about it, you may see the other stuff, the flashy stuff. But Caleb, you don't see that when you get to know him up close. So maybe Mayo just happened to know Milton a little bit better since they had been from the same school. Whatever the reason, I don't think he's a Patriot if he's not at Tennessee.
It kind of reminds me of Michael Jordan, who was the worst GM of all time when he was an owner of the Hornets, and when he wanted the Bull, same when he tried to push the Bulls to make draft picks in the 80s. He always wanted North Carolina guys. And it also reminds me of when Steve Spurrier was at Washington. He was like, let me just find my former Florida quarterbacks to go play for me. And so, I mean, he's like, I love when this never works for coaches or GMs who do this. And if they even think that way, it derails them. And so, as someone who's rooting for Gerard Mayo, I hope he didn't make that mistake. I'm hoping it's just Joe Milton was available. He's a top 7 quarterback. They did, by the way, they drafted Joe Milton with the pick that they traded Mac Jones to get, interestingly enough. So maybe they're like, Drake May's our guy, but let's have Joe Milton come compete. And I really hope that Gerard Mayo didn't think that way, because Joe Milton is not a fit for New England. He's just not. What I can't process, Dave, is how Gerard Mayo could.
And their media, by the way, is the new New York media. It is very, very difficult. I mean, because there's a lot of competitive reporters on that beat. If you don't play well, you're going to hear about it on Monday.
To a degree, but Boston sports media is still very, very Homer. New York and Philly media is not Homer.
Well, see, but I think Homer can be hard on you. I think people overreact to Homerism because they're disappointed they don't get to go cover the World Series that year. So I think Homerism is actually a bad thing. I don't mean that it's as cynical. I just mean that it's that interspersed within the franchise. I think they have to deal with it, the media company.
Oh, I'm sure that's probably true, but you're right. So it could be harder on you, but where Philly and New York is, they're hard on you, but they're also objective. Boston sports fans have the least amount of objectivity. They are the most annoying fan base in all of America. Don't even get me started on Boston sports fans. I can't stand them. Okay, so back to, but I get what you're saying. Joe Milton is going to be under a lot of pressure with that. If he gets to start, I mean, here's the crazy part, Dave.
Well, he's not going to start.
Well, they have an open quarterback room now. And here's the crazy part. And I was thinking about this. A lot of you guys on the message boards and a lot of people that cover Tennessee, Dave, as you know, have done what I haven't done and have defended Josh Heupel for starting Milton over Hooker because they're like, Milton is just that good in practice. Well, if he's just that good in practice, you don't think there's a chance he beats out Drake May in practice, even if he's not even close to Drake May in the game?
Well, I mean, I don't think he's going to beat Drake May out, period. I think you had a bunch of quarterbacks that were good. I don't think there was an elite one. Caleb Williams might prove me wrong, but he's not going to beat Drake May in practice. He's just not.
Sometimes I think you can fall. I mean, if he doesn't, then that'll prove my point.
With the big arm. You could fall in love with the big arm.
You can fall in love with the big arm. I mean, there is not. again, that I'm saying that based on what you guys have told me. Because if it's true that Heupel was rational with his decision to start Milton over Hooker, by the way, I don't believe that. He wasn't. It's one of the most ridiculous decisions ever made in the history of Tennessee football. Yeah, I'll say that. Butch Jones not going for 2 was not as dumb as Heupel starting Milton over Hooker. Okay, the evidence, in my opinion, was there the whole time. However, if what y'all are saying is true, which is that, but there's this way Joe Milton practices, and the way he practices could have been a little tricky, and you could fall for it. Well, if that's the case, he should be able to compete with Drake May, because I think Hadden Hooker is better than Drake May.
Okay, so I want to update the poll question, and I want to get your realistic thoughts on what Milton can achieve this year and what Milton can achieve in his career. And it's brought to you by Don Self of State Farm. Customer service matters. I know we're all shopping for prices, but customer service matters when you want that claim. For 40 years, they have built their business on taking care of their customers in the greater Chattanooga area. Go to donself.net, donself.net. It is right below. Reasonable expectations for Milton year 1 to me, just sit there and learn. Just sit there and learn. Don't play a snap. I mean, that's the best case scenario. He's not ready. He's not ready. Long term, I think it's one of 2 ways. I think it's either somebody takes him and he says, I'm willing to run with the football, which he may never say that, and they build an offense around his skills. Or I think he flames out of the NFL in less than 3 years. I don't even think he's holding a clipboard like Josh Dobbs did for so long, because they have such different skill sets.
A lot of this depends on, so the Patriots have a new offensive coordinator in Alex Van Pelt, who is, so Gerard Mayo is departing from the offense. So maybe there's a chance there, and I'm with you. Maybe that could be the Patriots where it happens. I think, you know what I think best case scenario is for Joe Milton, Dave?
What is that?
Best case scenario for Joe Milton is he starts for 2 or 3 teams, maybe collects a lot of NFL money, but those teams, like, they think back 10 years and they go, remember how bad we were when we had Joe Milton starting at quarterback, the way Ravens fans think of Kyle Bowler.
Oh, and man, why you gotta go there throwing dirt on Joe?
But Joe still walks away with NFL money. I just can't. Here's what I can't see in my mind how Gerard Mayo played as a teammate of Tom Brady's. Was an all-pro teammate, played under Bill Belichick, saw that offense daily, saw the value and what's important of a quarterback. And Dave, you do agree with me, right? When I say he's the anti-Tom Brady, it's like the Antichrist. It's like there's parallels with Milton and Brady, and then there's exact opposites. It's one or the other with those two.
No.
I mean, I can't figure out how Gerard Mayo, having seen Tom Brady his whole career, going for Drake May now, looking to somewhat continue the Patriot way, could see Joe Milton and say, and that was in their mind, right? They took him in the 6th round. They're like, maybe this is our Tom Brady this time around.
Yep. Ready to get some free agents as they have signed over the weekend. I know a lot of Tennessee favorites signed, a couple that didn't get drafted that I thought would. That leads us to what, the age?
Say when.
Let's say when, and it is right now. As you can tell, I've been working on my board.
What the? What was he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
Why in the world didn't McAllen Castles get drafted? I look at him and what he did at the combine, or what he did in pro day workouts, and what he's done throughout the offseason. And to me, he looked like a guy that should get drafted. I was surprised he didn't get drafted. I thought he would be a late riser up the board. And I'm curious what you think of some of the other guys' destinations.
So McAllen Castles, I think, remember, he wasn't considered a draft prospect until his pro day. And then he blew it away at the pro day. I think teams were just too scared to waste a pick on somebody because of a pro day. And then they thought he still might be there when he comes out. So McAllen as a free agent, and they were right. And the Eagles, I think it's a great fit for him. I mean, you want a safety blanket for Jalen Hurts? Talk about McAllen Castles being the perfect safety blanket, right? I mean, I think he's, based on raw talent alone, he's going to be the most successful undrafted free agent probably of everybody. But I I also think he landed in a really good spot. But I think it had a lot to do with the pro day more than anything else. Or not the pro day, the lack of anything but the pro day. People didn't want to take a chance and take a risk just because of the pro day.
No, that's fair. What did you think of the rest of the free agents and where they ended up? Because I want to get to one guy in particular who's going to join us later in the program, Jacob Warren. He signed a free agent agreement with the New England Patriots. That's a good fit for Jacob. I again think that he can find his place as a special teams player for a while. We'll see how tight end works out, but I think that's a good place to be. And from what I've heard, I did a little bit of digging over the weekend. It was hell on earth under Bill Belichick, Caleb. It was every bit as bad as you thought, but now it's very player friendly. So what did you make of Jacob signing with the Pats and the other Tennessee signees to the NFL?
Jacob Warren signing with the Pats. It's hard to know what to make of it, again, because yes, I get the hell on earth with Bill Belichick, but the Patriot way also made stars out of tight ends consistently. So, you don't know what this new offense is going to do, particularly with them going for big arms like Joe Milton and Drake May. It's just tough to know with Jacob Warren with this current Patriots roster. But if the Patriot way still exists, I mean, I think that is a good fit. It's more player friendly. Here's the question. Yes, it's more player friendly. Is it more tight end friendly? Because Bill Belichick's offense, whatever you want to say, Dave, they made stars out of tight ends. They also made killers out of tight ends, but that's a different story. I think
Gators had a part in that.
I'm sorry?
I think the Gators had a part in that.
That's true. No, but the Gators were a real Christian program with the real Christian quarterback. And, Tim Tebow would not stand for something like that, Dave.
So Jacob Warren with the Patriots. It is funny how they hid behind one guy, Tim Tebow, who was a fantastic guy. Aaron still is. Aaron Beasley, Seattle Seahawks. Yeah, I think that's a fine fit. I just think Beasley. See, that's the thing. Other than Castles and Warren, every player that I'm going to point to on this list is somewhat limited. Beasley goes with the Seahawks. Jump in there if you want to give me your thoughts. Any of these? What about
Mike McDonald? Mike McDonald, the Seahawks head coach, was the defensive coordinator of the Ravens. He has a long history of scouting great linebacker talent specifically. And so if Aaron Beasley signed with them, it's because Mike McDonald likes him. So that's a really good sign for Beasley.
Good stuff. Ramel Keaton. I never thought he had NFL talent, but I think he can hang on. And even though he played on the outside, I think he can be a slot receiver type guy because of his lack of speed.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like the Raiders, it's like they are consistently like a couple of pieces away from having a great team. Haven't they been that way for like 5-10 years now, before and after the crazy John Gruden stuff? And so, yes. Going to Vegas, I think could actually be very helpful. I think Antonio Pierce who did a solid job as the interim head coach last year. There's a lot to deal with last year with that. They finished second in the West. He actually finished with a winning record. So I do think that Ramel Keaton could find a home in Vegas. I think it would have been better for them had he gone maybe 5 years ago, but that's just that's a different story. The
most unused player, in my opinion, up next, brought to you by the Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online. Hemp House chat with 2Ts.com. Be sure and use the promo code HOOKED for 10% off. HOOKED for 10% off. CBD Delta products, great selection, quality that is absolutely unbelievable. D. Williams is just one of those players that I feel like came through Tennessee's program and Tennessee didn't get as much out of him as they could have.
That's true. He's probably being picked up just to be a special teams guy. My guess is
I think there's a gamble too, don't you? That there's a gamble that the kickoff rules are going to help kickoff return man, because he could.
I think that's very true. I think that's very true. Which will make them more valuable now. I mean, because you're right. Over the past few years, Dave, there hasn't been an idea of drafting players just because of their return abilities. And
no, I think this is a trend that's going to happen, and it's really goofy, guys. First time you see it in the NFL, I think it's going to happen this year, It's essentially where they have to stand 10 yards apart. The kickoff return is going to look completely different, but I can't really diagram that. But I do believe that the kickoff returner is going to be more valuable. So think Devin Hester's, those type of guys that can change games. Jeremiah Crawford to the Panthers. I like this because Cade Mays is there, and he's got somebody he knows, and that offensive line's really tight. Thoughts?
That offensive line is really tight and really terrible. And
really
so
terrible.
Jeremiah Crawford, if you can stand up and walk, you might start on that offensive line this year. Okay. So, I mean, he's already got a head start by like just being able to move. Okay. So because of that, Jeremiah Crawford is going to a good place. And Jeremiah Crawford is a solid, reliable player. I think there is something to like about Jeremiah Crawford. It's kind of a leader of the team, a versatile alignment. But yes, the fact that he can walk is enough that he should be starting because that offensive is horrible.
The fact that he can walk. Gabe Judy Lawley, the Tennessee Titans. This is not a hometown pick. Judy Lawley is a very versatile player. He is going to play special teams. This is a player that will contribute for the Titans.
I mean, he's kind of a hometown pick because he also went to Vanderbilt before he went to Tennessee. So, I mean, I'm sorry. I don't think Titans management is smart enough to not do hometown picks because I think they are just run incredibly incompetently from Rand Carthen on up. I'm sorry, guys. Am I hating on them too hard? But I will agree that I actually do like Judy Lawley here. I think he could find a role. I think he would have been in better shape though had Mike Vrabel still been there. I don't know if it's the same now. So, because Mike Vrabel would definitely have found a role for him because he's the type of player that, this Mike Vrabel would love Gabe Judy Lawley. Mentally tough player that's willing to play any role.
Are we? Yeah. I thought it was Vrabel. Are we?
I've been saying Vrabel forever, and I'm not changing. Okay, so
fair.
You guys,
all right, you stick to your guns. I like it. Take part in the poll question, Joe Milton. You have these choices. Do you root for Joe Milton in the NFL? Nah, ready to move on, or fervently he's a VFL. I'll give you the results in that poll question, or you can go to YouTube and vote for it right now. And then I left out Jalen McCullough. Didn't want to do that, Jalen McCullough.
Yeah, Jalen McCullough to the Los Angeles Rams. I think Jalen McCullough could be underrated. Given the legal issue he was dealing with last year by a very overzealous Knoxville DBA who likes to make her name known by prosecuting football players with very, very thin evidence. I think that don't you think that could have maybe affected his play last year a little bit just on the field when you're dealing with that off the field? And
yeah. But you know why? Because it did affect where he was drafted. I mean, there's no way that doesn't cost you a domestic violence issue nowadays. That costs you 2 or 3 rounds, unless you're elite.
And remember, he got indicted because he punched a guy who broke into his apartment.
Oh, I'm not defending the NFL, but nowadays with the Ray Rice situation and all that, they're going to be ultra sensitive to that.
We also forgot another one, Jabari Small also signing with the Titans. That's almost feels like a hometown discount too. Again, I'm sorry.
That does. And God bless Jabari Small. He comes into last season or 2020, or 2022. He comes into 2022 and he's the guy, he's lost 15 pounds and then he loses his job to just a more talented back. And that happens. Coming up on the program, looking forward to breaking this down. Candace Parker versus Shamiqua Holdsclaw. Who's better? Also, how Candace Parker got the ultimate revenge on Gino Auriemma. And Jacob Warren, former Tennessee tight end. That doesn't sound right. And we'll get more Wright, Hadden, Kamal Hadden, I should say, like Vrabel. Stay tuned. More after this, Off the Hook Sports.
5th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that. If we wouldn't put our family in it, we're not going to put their family in it. If you're going to say that you're doing the best work in Knoxville, now saying it's one thing, producing it and providing it's another.
The largest family-owned collision center in Knoxville is Joe Newbert Collision Center.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
Experience it all at Varner Ford in Clinton. Need a quick fix or routine maintenance? Visit our Quick Lane Tire and Auto Center. Keep your Ford running smoothly with the experts in our service department. Ready for your next Ford? Our sales team's here to guide you through. 24 Ford Badlands Bronco, $59,829. 24 Ford Maverick all-wheel drive, $28,540. 24 Ford Explorer XLT four-wheel drive, $49,996. Local you trust, experience you can afford. Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Play to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Who?
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
All right, welcome back to the program. As we've got a bit of an anniversary coming up, and we're excited about that in June. We'll tell you more about that. Do want to encourage people to sign up to our Hooker's Corner page. There's going to be a breakdown on Mr. James Pierce on that today. Caleb, if you can, do you have that link handy with you? If you can put that up there, and then I'll
Which
give
link?
you
Sorry.
Oh, just the Patreon link. There you go. I can go.
Okay.
So there we go. I'll go ahead and share that with the screen. I'm going to put that in the message board right here. So if you want to be a part, we would love for you to do that. You also get great interaction with me. And if you got a question for Fred White or Spencer Riley, some former Vols, I'll be glad to field that as well. We're pretty proud of the Patreon page and our relationship with Sports Treasures because we're able to give away some fantastic stuff. And that may just expand. So we give away weekly gifts, but we also give away our monthly grand prize, which always comes from our good friends at Sports Treasures. Over 5 million Sports Treasures. John Henderson was in over the weekend, so we'll have the former Vol autographed mini helmet for our April giveaway, which actually won't take place until next week, which will be the first Friday in May. So we're off and running. When I look at Jalen Wright and Kamal Hadden and their NFL draft spots, I think both did really, really well. However, when I look at the duo, when I see Kamal Hadden go to the Kansas City Chiefs and I see Jalen Wright go to the Miami Dolphins, it just makes me happy because Tennessee players and Tennessee fans have gone under so much scrutiny and so much duress over the past decade. I'm happy for Jalen Wright and Kamal Hadden, to be real honest with you.
Yeah, so I agree, and I'm going to start this. So I just closed our poll question of the last one over whether or not you will root for Joe Milton, and 81% said yes. So we have a new poll question up, guys. Please bring it up, and it is: which former Vol had the best landing spot in the NFL? And I wrote Jalen Wright, Joe Milton, Kamal Hadden, or an undrafted free agent. Please vote. And also on Twitter, if you name undrafted free agent, please name the undrafted free agent in the comments. Nobody's saying Joe Milton so far, and they're all right. It's down to Jalen Wright or Kamal Hadden. Jalen Wright is in an amazing situation. Miami loves the speeding running backs, so they're going to turn you into a Pro Bowler. They have 2 other speeding running backs on the roster right now. Jalen Wright will be part of a 3-headed monster where he'll make an impact. But Dave, here's what's crucial about this with Jalen Wright, and here's what's crazy about it. Jalen Wright can rack up yards at Miami while avoiding being run into the ground. And here's why. This is something that's very interesting. So Devon Akaney and Raheem Mostert are the two headed monsters at the position right now. Okay. Mostert's contract is up in 2026 and Akaney's is up in 2027. Wright's would be up in 2028. So let's think about this for a minute. Wright will spend time the first 2 years. He'll spend his first 2 years in the NFL being third in carries on the team in carries, not taking too many hits. He'll spend his third year being second on the team in carries. And then on his contract year, he'll be getting the bulk of the carries, which will secure him to get a giant contract right after that without being run into the ground. Isn't that the perfect situation if you're Jalen Wright?
Yes, but the NFL is going to try to use and abuse him, run him into the ground, and then ship him off after that initial contract. They're going to try to do that. Now, does he prove that he's of the Saquon Barkley or Ezekiel Elliott level to get that second big contract? I don't know. But I will tell you this. I would rather take my shot as a running back in Miami with that offense that put up 70 last year. And I was like, double take. Is that right? That's one of the best offenses we've seen in recent memory. I'd rather take my shot there than being in Kansas City. Nothing wrong with that program, obviously, but it just seems tailor-made in South Florida for Jalen.
It does. It does. And, the weather, it's perfect. The offense, that's what I was saying, though. The offense is a perfect fit for Wright. But then there's also just the fact that, Wright will be the third string back his first 2 years there and still pick up yards as a third string back, by the way. So he's not going to get abused the way you think. He won't get abused until his final year. And by the way, your contract year is the year you want to get abused and run it to the ground, right? Because that's the year you want to get a big contract. So yeah. I think this is run perfectly well. But are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
You tell me if I'm crazy, Dave. Kamal Hadden is still in a better spot.
No, he's not. I feel like you're throwing this one out there just to be contradictory. Just give me one reason. I don't know. I'm asking.
I will give you multiple reasons why Kamal Hadden is in a better spot. First of all, the Chiefs are going to be a little bit biased to Kamal Hadden. And there's a reason for that. There's two reasons. One, the legacy of defensive backs at Kansas City. A man by the name of Eric Berry. That's part of it. Mm-hmm. But the other big reason, there's this other 6th round guy they took from Tennessee who fell to the 6th round because of injury issues, just like Kamal Hadden. And
I think he's Trey. Is it Trey or 3 or what is it?
His name is Trey.
Yeah. He ended up being pretty good.
Should have been a Trey round pick because that's a 3rd round pick. But instead he fell to the 6th round, and he's now considered the biggest draft steal in the NFL on the offensive line. You don't think
if this were the Tennessee Titans, I would be on board with their leaning towards picking Tennessee players. But if you're suggesting they want a Tennessee pipeline like the Eagles want Georgia players, then Dylan says crazy Caleb needs to put the bottle down again. And I can't say that I'm arguing with him. What is in that coffee mug there, Caleb?
Cocaine. I'm kidding. Wait, but there's one other gigantic point. Steve Spagnuolo, the Chiefs defensive coordinator, his favorite thing to do is develop defensive backs that are late round draft picks. That's what he's famous for. That's who Kamal Hadden is going to play for. They're going, because of Steve Spagnuolo's defense, they are going to be totally laser focused on trying to make Kamal Hadden work. And so I'm telling you guys.
Well, Kyle agrees with you, so you're not all by your lonesome. And hey, I guess it depends on what you would rather do. You're going to be, if you take care of your money, you're going to be rich either way, right? So would you rather live in South Beach and be a part of what could seriously be like a generational, like the greatest show on turf type of offense, and they could have that sort of run? Would you rather be a part of that, which may or may not win you championships, or would you rather go to the Chiefs? Whereas if you stay for 3 to 5 years, you're probably going to win a championship. Me personally, I would take the championship. But
I would absolutely take the championship.
Jalen Wright has to get his family paid too, right?
Yes, Jalen Wright absolutely has to get paid. Also, cornerbacks get paid, probably are better off getting long-term deals than running backs. I mean, I'm just saying, Kamal Hadden's not going to be running to the ground. You can, and you know this, Dave, you can develop as a cornerback into a system and then get deals. I mean, Emmanuel Mosley's a former Tennessee player who did that. And so I'm just going to tell you, Kamal Hadden is in a better spot. Y'all can think I'm crazy. That doesn't mean Jalen Wright's not in a great spot, though. They're both in good spots. Joe Milton is not.
But Joe Milton's not in a bad spot. Joe Milton's just not a very good quarterback. And that's the last thing I'm ever going to say about Joe Milton. But it's just that's it. I mean, he's just. Would there have been a great spot for him? What's a great spot?
Buffalo. Buffalo would have been a great spot for him because Buffalo, if there's anybody that could turn Joe Milton into a good quarterback, Sean McDermott could. Because Sean McDermott turned Josh Allen into a good quarterback.
Buffalo would have been a good pick, and he could sit behind Josh Allen, and you would think learn. You would certainly think. So that would be a good pick, but where else? We're talking about one franchise. That to me means a player's extremely limited.
Oh, he's absolutely extremely limited. We know that. That's why you have to get there are, it's funny. You say everywhere, somewhere, nowhere guys for recruiting. You kind of got to do that with quarterbacks, right? There's everywhere, somewhere, nowhere guys. There are guys that I don't care, like Peyton Manning. Wherever he went is going to be good. You throw the coach out and you say, let Peyton Manning run the offense and give him an all season, right? And he'll make him good. There are somewhere stars at quarterback. When I say the word somewhere stars, what I mean is quarterbacks who, if they're not in the right situation, they are flameouts. But if they're in a good situation, they could be stars. I think of like Cam Newton was a perfect situation. Mike Shula worked perfectly with Cam Newton at Carolina. He became a star. I say this, Dave, this is crazy. Maybe Ryan Leaf could have been a star had he gone to a better situation. I mean, honestly, he had the talent to be great.
Well, it's not the example I would have used, but there are examples like that. There certainly are. I don't think he wanted to be an NFL quarterback. I think he wanted everything that goes along with being an NFL quarterback, which is a little bit
That's
different.
fair. That is fair.
I think Peyton Manning wanted to be an NFL quarterback, and he didn't give a damn about Manning cast or whatever may be down the road. Ryan Leaf, the reports, you can believe what you want to, kind of tanked with the Colts so that he could live in San Diego. That to me, even if that's a thing, and I've heard him talk about it, and he's admitted to it, that to me, to not want to be the number one pick in the first round is reason enough to take Manning over to Leaf.
He says Bill Polian lied on him for that, though. He says Bill Polian is a liar, basically. He says that
I've heard him admit that he did not want to go to Indianapolis, that he wanted to go to San Diego and drug his feet a little bit.
Okay, well, and maybe not the best word given what he ended up getting addicted to, but or given his demons, he said drug. But I get what you're saying with that. I think that okay, but you know what I'm talking about though, right? Now you're right. There are some quarterbacks like, look, Jamarcus Russell would have been a flame out anywhere because Jamarcus Russell was the ultimate disgrace of a human to play quarterback in the NFL, and I would never.
Yeah, but I want to get back to Joe Milton. So go ahead.
Yeah, and that's where I was going to go with Joe Milton. Most of these nowhere quarterbacks with raw physical abilities, they're nowhere quarterbacks because they're lazy and just terrible people, and they just want the money and they don't care.
But Caleb, what I want to ask you is, do you agree with my assessment that he is not going to be a guy that carries a clipboard around for 6 to 8 years? He's either going to hit, something's going to go good for him, or he's going to be over it.
Yes,
it's been a long NFL path for a guy that's just in his mid-20s.
Yes, the talent is too raw. The talent is way too raw to where if he's carrying a clipboard, someone's going to be like, we got to put this guy in. Because it's like he's not a great quarterback. He won't last. But someone is going to fall. Joe Milton, all right, over under 7.5 starts career in the NFL, Joe Milton.
Ooh. Can we go ahead and put that on the message board? Yeah. Go ahead and put that on the YouTube poll question as well. I will take the over, which might surprise you, actually.
You will take the over 7.5.
Does that surprise you?
Okay.
That I would take the over?
That kind of surprises you.
Now,
we'll
would
put that poll
you
question up.
take it? Yeah, let's put the poll question. Let's change that. Joe Milton, 7.5 starts. You taking the over or the under? Brought to you by Quality Tire Pro. The Eberle family has been serving the Chattanooga community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service automotive, brake alignments, oil changes, and more. All work covered by a nationwide warranty. Cherokee Blvd, or just go to qualitytirepros.com. Qualitytirepros.com. Tell Off the Hook Sports, hey, Bo, hey, we're here. All right. So, tell you what I want to get to right now. And I'm going to move a break back because I want to dive into this. And that is Candace Parker versus Chamique Holdsclaw. And that is Candace Parker's revenge on Gino Auriemma. Were you surprised to see that she retired over the weekend, Caleb?
Yeah, so Candace Parker, for those who don't know, retired on Sunday after 16 years in the WNBA. Her career includes 2 WNBA MVPs, a Finals MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, 3 WNBA championships, 2 gold medals, incredibly decorated. I wasn't too surprised by her retirement. She had a season-ending injury this past year with the Aces and Las Vegas Aces and didn't play when they won the WNBA.
I had a lot
finals.
of money on that game too.
Oh, really?
Gamble in sports. I certainly don't gamble on women's sports.
So she has one of the most decorated careers. So let's start with comparing Candace Parker to Chamique Holdsclaw.
Well, hold on a second. You're getting ahead of yourself. Let's go to 4 Downs. It's brought to you by our good friends at Dynasty Pools and Spas. Dynasty Pools and Spas right there in Athens.
4 Downs brought to you by Dynasty Spas, the most comfortable spas made in the United States of America, right here in East Tennessee. Drop in for the all-new showroom in Athens. Dynasty Spas, perfect for all 4 seasons. 4 Downs, presented by Off the Hook Sports.
All right, so before we get to the first down of the downs, the moral of the story, Coop, what do people need to do?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Is Candace Parker versus Chamique Holdsclaw. So Caleb and I were talking over the weekend, and he shared with me the thought that many Lady Vol fans believe that Candace Parker is a better player than Chamique Holdsclaw, or vice versa. And it happens to be a strong feeling among those Lady Vols. So what is your stance between the two, Parker and Holdsclaw?
I was going to save that for 4th down.
Okay, let's do it right now.
Coop here.
All right. You've got Chamique Holdsclaw, whose numbers aren't quite as good as Candace Parker. How close are they? And do you think that should matter in how we judge the two?
Yeah, so an average per game numbers, which I think matters. Chamique Holdsclaw averaged 1 more point per game for her career. But Candace Parker's true shooting percentage was about 58%, and Chamique Holdsclaw's was slightly below 55%. They had the same number of rebounds per game. They averaged the same number of assists per game. Chamique Holdsclaw averaged about 0.2 more steals, but here's the big one, Dave. Candace Parker averaged 3 times as many blocks as Chamique Holdsclaw. So that's the only area where they're significantly different, and Candace Parker's significantly better. Candace averaged 2.5 blocks per game. Chamique averaged just under a block per game. And Candace Parker, that was the big difference for her. She's arguably the best interior defender of all time. And we talk about and you texted me about this yesterday, when you talk about a player that that literally fits what Pat Summitt wants to build, that's Candace Parker. What did Pat Summitt love? Interior defense and rebounding. And nobody did interior defense and rebounding like Candace Parker. So because of that, yeah, Candace Parker wins on numbers, but slightly.
All right. What down, Coop?
Cooper Mays here. 2nd down.
Thank you, Coop. You're wrong because Chamique Holdsclaw won 3 championships. Candace Parker could just squeeze out 1.
2. She got 2.
2, excuse me.
Put some respect on Candace Parker's name.
My bad.
Yes, I can't argue with career accomplishments with Chamique Holdsclaw. I can't in terms of career accomplishments at Tennessee. I can argue it with the WNBA because Candace had a better WNBA career than Chamique Holdsclaw. All due respect, I want to be fair up front. Chamique Holdsclaw battled depression really severely, by the way. So the fact that she was even a 6-time WNBA All-Star is remarkable. I think if she didn't have the issues with depression that hadn't been addressed, she probably would have been a Hall of Famer too. But
let's don't forget too, she overcame throughout her youth the hearing issue. Yeah, I think we're all Chamique Holdsclaw fans here. She overcame a lot. All right, so
so I guess all I was going to say was just to give her credit. She had 3 straight national titles, and she was 2-time National Player of the Year, across unanimous, whereas Candace Parker only 1 time. So in career accomplishments, I give you Chamique Holdsclaw, but we'll keep going. Sorry.
Okay, what down, Coop?
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here, 3rd down.
Who did more with less? I don't know the Lady Vols as well as you do, but I would say Candace Parker based off the eye test when I watched them play.
Guys, now I'm going to give credit to Chamique Holdsclaw with the 97 national title run. That probably was the least supporting cast between the two, but for their overall career, it's Candace Parker. Chamique Holdsclaw played 2 years with Tamika Catchings as a teammate. That's another WNBA Hall of Famer. Okay. Candace Parker had nobody on the level of Tamika Catchings as a member of her supporting cast. She had solid role players: Nikki Anisicki, Alexis Hornbuckle, Sydney Spencer for 1 year when she won the national title, Shannon Bobbitt. But I mean, Chamique Holdsclaw had better talent, guys. She had Tamika Catchings. She had Samika Randall. Before that, she had Michelle Marciniak. She had recently fired Lady Vols head coach Kelly Harper, who, whatever you think about her, when she was Kelly Jolly, she was a heck of a point guard at Tennessee. Okay, Chamique Holdsclaw was the best player, and that 97 run was incredible. But because she didn't have Tamika Catchings on that team, there was less talent than what Parker had in either of her 2 title teams. But on the 99 team that lost to Duke in the Elite 8, that team was loaded. Chamique Holdsclaw had Tamika Catchings as a sophomore by that point, and she lost to Duke in the Elite 8. Candace Parker never had a Tamika Catchings as a teammate, ever.
No. It felt like a one-man or one-woman team. When you watched that team play, did it not? It felt a lot like Tennessee got at the end of the season when they would depend on Dalton Connect too much, the end of the regular season.
Oh, yes. As a matter of fact, it's funny you bring that up because there was a game. It was the Final Four game that year. Tennessee beat LSU 47-46. And I know Candace Parker didn't hit the game-winning shot, but it was 47-46. And here's why. If Candace Parker wasn't scoring, Dave, hardly anybody else was scoring. And if Candace Parker wasn't scoring, you know how they won? With Candace Parker's defense. That's how they won their games. If Candace Parker wasn't scoring, they were going to have to win games in the 40s and 50s. That was one of the most boring teams to watch, Pat Summitt's final national title team, because there was no offense outside of Candace Parker.
Okay.
On it.
What down, Coop?
All SEC center Cooper Mays here, 4th down.
Who you taking? Is it close and why?
It's close. I'm taking Candace Parker. I know Chamique had the career accomplishments, guys. And I think Chamique Holdsclaw is probably more beloved at Tennessee than Candace Parker because she was a 4-year player. Candace Parker was a 3-year player, but Candace Parker did have the ACL injury her first year. But Candace Parker's the better player. She was the better player in college. She was the better player in the pros. She really put that team on, those 2 title teams, on her back more than Chamique Holdsclaw did. And it's close. And I say that, as you know, Dave, with all due respect to Chamique Holdsclaw. I love her. I have so much respect for her, the human.
It's close in your mind.
It's close.
Is Candace Parker, in your opinion, the best women's basketball player to ever play?
I mean, I think on the interior, yes. I think that she's the best interior women's basketball player. Now, when you start talking about kind of some guard play and people like that, I mean, you're talking, it's hard for me to put her over somebody like, she's right there with Breanna Stewart and Maya Moore and like those 2 UConn players. And I know Lady Vol fans are going to kill me for saying those 2, but I can't straight up put her over those guys or Diana Taurasi, but she's in the tier with them. With those 3.
4 Downs brought to you by Dynasty Pools and Spas. You know, the best thing about Dynasty Pools and Spas is that they've got it all taken care of. What does that mean? Well, you stop by their showroom and check out their fantastic selection of top-notch spas in that showroom in Athens. Make your pick and get ready. Because Dynasty Pools and Spas delivers within 125 miles of that location in Athens, that fantastic showroom. They've got the cover lifts, steps, chemicals, and everything you need. Delivery at no extra charge. They're just down the road in Athens. You pick the spa you want, and it'll be there for you. Oftentimes discounted with military and first responders discounts. Also blemish models, or just mention Off the Hook Sports. That's Off the Hook Sports for $500 off. There's a discount for you on spas made right here in East Tennessee. Support local. Dynasty Pools and Spas also has the best chemicals for you and your spa and your pool. No fillers, just the chemicals made right here in East Tennessee. Support local. Dynasty Pools and Spas, $500 off if you mention Off the Hook Sports. $500 off if you mention Off the Hook Sports. Dynasty Pools and Spas, dynastypoolsandspas.com. So when you look at the greatest ambassadors for a program, it is obviously Peyton Manning and Candace Parker because of their ability to be in front of millions on a national stage. And that will even has extended beyond their playing careers and will continue to. Is there any other school that you can even think about that has two people in such a highly publicized setting? I wanted to say Auburn and Charles Barkley but I can't really come up with an and. I mean, two people that are regular media mainstays from the same university, that's pretty unique.
As far as athletes, you're right. I mean, that's I got to think of all the Syracuse grads that are ESPN broadcasters, but they're not athletes.
And there's a lot of Florida ones too. They hired a lot from Florida.
Yeah, you are right. That's actually a good one. Jesse Palmer is all over this everywhere. And I'm trying to think of there's another Florida. I mean, Jesse Palmer and Tim Tebow. You can't really those are two big ones, but Jesse Palmer and Tim Tebow, neither of them had pro football careers. Let's be honest. I mean, it's not like Peyton Manning and Candace Parker who had legendary pro careers. But Jesse Palmer's on Food Network. He's on all these cool things. But you are right. In terms of players who were elite in college, had elite pro careers.
And elite pro careers as well. Oh, yeah, Caleb back right there. We lost Caleb for a second. There you go.
Sorry, I lost.
Got you back. Go ahead. As far as elite pro careers, you were saying.
Yes. Sorry, Dave. I think you're frozen on me. Or is that me?
All right, you're all good. Keep talking, Caleb.
Okay, sorry. As far as elite pro careers go, yeah, if you combine the two, Candace Parker, Peyton Manning. I don't know if you could top those two.
All right. So you want to reset our poll question, and then I want to get to another topic about Candace Parker, because I think there's something else that needs to be said about her. And as a matter of fact, we're going to visit with John Adams on Tuesday about her as an ambassador. So we'll get more into that along with Peyton Manning as an ambassador for the University of Tennessee Athletics. So Caleb, you want to reset the poll question? Where are we on that?
Yes, let's first discuss this one because the Joe Milton over-under is getting a bit of a fight. Will he start over or under 7.5 games? And he started leading with 56% of the vote at over 7.5. But now the under has taken the lead. 61% say he will start under 7.5 games for his career. And there have been 18 votes so far. Where are you, Dave?
I think he'll start over 8.5 games. I think he'll start or 7.5. I think he'll start 8 or more games. I think that he will essentially get 2 opportunities to be the guy at a place at some point in his career, and we'll see how things shake out. But I do want to say this real quick. Some people are saying, do I have some personal issue with Joe Milton? No, I find the debate on him very interesting about fans. Some will love him, some don't. So I find that compelling. But I hope he does fantastic. I mean, he's been nothing but fantastic with me. I have nothing personal against that young man. I just call him like I see him sometimes. And unfortunately, that can rub people the wrong way. And there's times that we say on our show, Caleb, we just assume that person not hear it, but we don't hide our opinions from any of those people. So, all right. So resetting the poll question. There we go. And you had a fantastic column. And if you haven't read this yet, you need to do it. Candace Parker got revenge on Gino Auriemma. For those that don't remember, again, Dylan, I'm talking to you on our message board. For those that don't remember, the UConn Tennessee matchup in women's basketball used to be as big, almost as big as Duke, North Carolina on the men's side. It was that big. Things stopped, Caleb. And then Pat Summitt did not want to continue that because Gino Auriemma was cheating in recruiting by taking his prospects and Tennessee's prospects to the ESPN site, which is close to Storrs, Connecticut. That was cheating. You can't do that. So Pat Summitt said, I'm not going to play you anymore. I still criticize that decision. I would have liked to have seen that remain, that series. But how in the world does Candace Parker help get back at Gino Auriemma?
So to go back through history, guys, the Gino Auriemma thought he had Tennessee UConn really exploded as a rivalry with Diana Taurasi because Tennessee couldn't get past Diana Taurasi and UConn. That was kind of when UConn started to get on their level. And as Diana Taurasi was dominating, Candace Parker was the biggest, greatest, the biggest star in history of high school women's basketball. And it was a dogfight to try to get her. And she committed to Pat Summitt. Now, it makes sense. Pat Summitt, Gino Auriemma was more of a guard-based team. Pat Summitt always loved defense and rebounding. Candace Parker was a better fit for Pat Summitt. Gino Auriemma did not like that and was petty on that from the beginning. On top of that, that's when he really more openly flaunted skirting NCAA rules to recruit because he wasn't going to lose out on Maya Moore. He basically made it clear, after losing out on Candace Parker, he could not afford to lose out on Maya Moore, so he went all in shady ways to get Maya Moore, and landing Maya Moore was when Pat Summitt canceled the series with UConn. So basically, they both got petty and upset over losing out on a prize recruit. Gino
okay, but I still haven't heard the name Candace Parker work into this conversation.
Well, I'm saying Gino Auriemma was upset about losing out on Candace Parker, so he went all out to get Maya Moore, and the way he got Maya Moore upset Pat Summitt, who then canceled the series with UConn.
Okay,
that's the backdrop.
But how does Candace Parker get back at him?
So, obviously, when Candace Parker played at Tennessee never lost to UConn. They won 2 national titles. UConn never won a national title while Candace Parker was there. Okay, Candace Parker goes to the WNBA. 2008, she wins the gold medal at the Olympics. 2012, with Auriemma coaching, to be fair, she wins the gold medal. In 2016, Gino Auriemma exacts his revenge, and I think the most sick, twisted, vindictive, petty way. And that's not me talking. Candace Parker did not use those words, but she implied it with what she said in an interview in 2021, which is this. During the 2016 Team USA trials, Candace Parker was the best player on the court, according to everybody there. She averaged a triple-double, Dave, during the trials. She averaged a triple-double. And
let's not forget, playing for the America's team, especially on the women's side, is almost significant as I believe is winning the national championship in college basketball. I think that means a lot for your country. That's just me. I'm very patriotic.
I agree, and particularly on the women's side, where the WNBA doesn't get the same notoriety it deserves. Playing on the women's side on the Olympics is a bigger deal. So Candace Parker was the best player on the court. Everybody agreed. Gino Auriemma, who was coaching that team, left her off the Olympic team. Now, here's the crazy part. 8 days. It was 8 days after her 30th birthday that he left her off. And narratives got out there that Candace Parker was just a little too old now. 30's not too old to be on the Olympic team, Dave, is it? At all?
I think the female body actually ages a little faster. So that's getting pretty old. Athletically, the female body ages faster because of the pronation of the knees and the hips for child.
Okay,
bearing. But you didn't think you'd need to know all that.
No, but that's fine. But at the same time, if you're going to do that, fine. But Candace Parker was the best player at the trials. Why did you bring her to the trials?
Right. You didn't even have to sell me with anything beyond Candace Parker didn't make the Olympics. That's all you need. I mean, because if you're not, that would be the same thing as in a particular year not having Maya Moore if she were the best player. It was obvious for that run who the best player was in women's college basketball. Now with Breonna Stewart and maybe Caitlin Clark, we see that being spread out a little bit more. But used to be when you got the Candace Parkers, you won a championship. And so Candace Parker, I don't doubt for a second that she appreciates the fact that Gino Auriemma hasn't.
Well, wait, there's more to the story.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah. So Gino Auriemma left her off that team. So you're with me, right? He left her off because he was vindictive against her. That was him getting revenge.
There's no question.
And let me tell you guys how sick and twisted this is. That was the year Pat Summitt died. That he did that to get revenge on her for committing to Pat Summitt 2 months before Pat Summitt died from her disease. That's how vindictive Gino Auriemma was with what he did. Okay.
Well, you would think at the very least you would be the opposite, wouldn't you? You would be like, my rival, I want to give her a tip of the cap. But anyway, I guess he's not wired like that.
Yeah, exactly. And Gino Auriemma was at its peak right now because UConn was in the midst of the longest winning streak in basketball history. They had just won 4 straight national titles. So everything seemed great for UConn and just bleak for Tennessee. After Gino Auriemma leaves her off the team, let me just break down Candace Parker's career the last 8 years. She won her first WNBA title later that year and won WNBA Finals MVP. Then she got traded to the Chicago Sky, won the WNBA Defensive Player of the Year award and another WNBA title. She has since retired. Gino Auriemma has, like you just pointed out, failed to win a national title since that decision. Twice. The next 2 years, Dave, UConn went undefeated in the regular season, and they lost and choked a Final Four game John Calipari style, because John Calipari did that in 2015. And they have been consistently coming up short. This year, I thought they had the best team, but they got hit with a rash of injuries. There has been some, I know the phrase, what goes around comes around in karma. I don't believe in karma. I'm sorry. But sometimes you feel like sometimes you do feel like supernatural forces put karma at work, don't you? And it just.
Yeah, I do believe in karma or kismet, if you want to use that phrase. I do believe in karma. I just hate the fact, and I know UConn and Tennessee are going to play this upcoming year, right?
They rekindled the rivalry. They did it a few years ago. They rekindled it.
Well,
but
I'm a little split on that, Caleb. I'm curious. There's a part of me that says you should play it because it's great for the sport. And then there's another part of me that says the sport really doesn't need it. It's established. And in Pat Summitt's memory, don't play those bunch of jerks from Connecticut. That's the emotion. That's the emotional heart side versus the head side.
The part I bring up is canceling the series hurt one side way more than it hurt the other side. And there's evidence of that. It hurt Tennessee way more than it hurt UConn.
No, let me ask you why. I think Pat Summitt's absence hurt Tennessee more than.
You're right. Pat Summitt getting sick hurt Tennessee more than anything else. I totally agree with that. UConn, though, and this was you can trace recruiting back. UConn got a monopoly on recruiting, Dave, after Pat Summitt canceled the series. UConn got a monopoly on it. And I think the women's game, as it was getting more hip, more cool, more appealing to younger audiences and high school players, UConn transitioned with that better than Tennessee, because Tennessee's so old school. This is a program that's roots are in the 60s, okay? Which is, that's like a football program whose roots are in the 1860s. All right, guys? So it's so old school with the way it's approached things that it didn't seem as hip by the late 2000s. And I think that the UConn series kept things going for a while. And so because of that, nixing the UConn series, you can track it, Dave. UConn just had a complete monopoly on recruiting at that point, and they just absolutely dominated the recruiting classes. And so, yeah, it hurt Tennessee more than it hurt UConn. And I mean, that's tough to say, but yeah. So and Tennessee has rekindled the series. They waited until, let's just call it what it is. Notre Dame's closer to Alabama's level in football right now than Tennessee is to UConn's level. in women's basketball.
How about coming up a very special guest, as we will be joined by Jacob Warren. We're going to reset that poll question. Where are we on that there, Caleb?
Yeah, I switched it. It's who's the greatest Lady Vol of all time, Candace Parker, Shamika Holdsclaw. I'm a little shocked. Candace Parker's winning at 82%. I thought I was taking like an out of left field take with that, but most people agree that Candace Parker was better. Because I thought there was some nostalgia and love for the time when Shamika Holdsclaw was there. Like, I guarantee you, I love him, but I bet if we brought Fred Wright on, he'd probably say Shamika Holdsclaw in a heartbeat.
We might do that. We might do that at some point. Just have him on to talk women's basketball. I'm sure Fred would do that. I want to.
He loves the other sports. So.
He knows his stuff. There's no question. He goes and visits cousins for football games and everything. Fred will rejoin us, by the way. Fred White, former Tennessee safety, in the fall. Want you to try out TristarHatsCo.com. That's TristarHatsCo.com. Use the promo code Hooked for free shipping. A promo code Hooked for free shipping, and check those out. Those are printed up by our good friends at Apex Apparel Solutions, and I mean Apex has you gotten just absolutely taken care of. Whether or not we're talking about spirit wear, whatever the case may be, you can design, brand, market your way. Call Tyler. You'll get 15% off your first order. 865-919-3001. 865-919-3001. They're located in Knoxville, but they can handle your ordering from wherever. Support our sponsors. That's why we're here. In 2 minutes, we will visit with a former Tennessee tight end. I bet you know who it is. Stay tuned with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. This is a presentation of Off the Hook Sports.
Bronco, 59,829. 24 Ford Maverick, all-wheel drive, 28,540. 24 Ford Explorer, XLT four-wheel drive, 49,996. Local you trust, experience you can afford. Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co.? What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TristarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TristarHatsCo.com. That's TristarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TristarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do, to save an additional 10% off. TristarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Newbert Collision Center.
That's hot.
It is. Here we go. Back to the program with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. As it's been a crazy day. Just trust me.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, banksjones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on OffTheHookSports.com.
Get Al Brown on the show. We should do that, as a matter of fact. Al Brown's great. Good idea. Smoky Mountain Red. I've got his number on my phone. How will this class be remembered?
This draft class?
Yeah, I think it's remembered as a bunch of guys who maximize their ability. I mean, I can't point to many of these guys that didn't maximize their ability. Like I said, Ramel Keaton, I don't think is an NFL receiver. I don't think it's his fault. I think it's genetics.
You can't help if you're good or not. Sometimes,
so I'm just curious, what's the legacy left behind this class? I'm talking about the free agents as well, because you got Jacob Warren and McCallan Castles at tight end. Warren comes back for another year, and then you have McCastles, who turns out to be a great compliment. I just don't think there are a lot of guys out there that didn't maximize their ability.
Yeah, I think they all did. I think they all did the max of what they could. Kamal Hadden was doing the max until he got hurt. And a lot of these guys really did accept their roles. I mean, I hate for efforting these people because I feel like that's what we're doing with a lot of them. But it's, you know what it kind of reminds me of, Dave? So it reminds me of the 97 draft class after the 96 season. And there were only 3 players taken in that draft. And it was Joey Kent, Jay Graham, and Raymond Alston. Because if you remember, 95 had like a lot of players drafted. 96 had a lot of players who were going to be drafted, but they were underclassmen at the time. So none of them really went into the draft. Peyton Manning would have been the most notable, but he didn't go to the draft. And he came back. And so 97 and 98 had loaded draft classes, and 99, and you can go on from there. But 96 was a bit of a transition year. Joey Kent, Jay Graham, Raymond Alston were drafted. Kind of reminds me of those guys, right? Joey Kent, I think Joey Kent was drafted higher than he should have been, but that's because he produced at a level that he maximized his possible production, didn't he, as a receiver?
Yeah, absolutely. Got no argument with that. This day in Tennessee sports history is brought to you by our good friend T. Scott Jones at Banks & Jones. Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. BanksandJones.com. This day in Tennessee sports history is what, Caleb Calhoun?
This day, 7 years ago today, Tennessee wrapped up what has been by far its best draft class since the Fulmer / Kiffin years, because Kiffin's only draft class was pretty good too. As after not having any players drafted in the 2015 or 2016 NFL draft, Tennessee had 6 players taken in the first 4 rounds of the 2017 NFL draft. And on day 3, which was April the 29th, 7 years ago, they had Jalen Reeves-Maben, Josh Malone, and Josh Dobbs all taken. Before that, Derek Barnett, Alvin Kamara, and Cameron Sutton were taken. So it was a loaded draft class with a team that the year before couldn't even win the East because Butch Jones was leading them. But it's okay. That was the draft class from the Champion of Life team.
But that Champion of Life team will always have that trophy, Caleb.
I love the Championship of Life.
Champion of Life trophy. And it's not an animate object. It's actually, it lives in your heart.
Is that the dumbest quote you've ever heard of Coach Giff? Is that the dumbest quote?
Oh, I've heard a lot. By the way, hit that like and subscribe button. We are pushing like 5,000 subscribers, and Caleb and I just working together about a year. So we've got a lot.
We really need it.
Yeah, we want it. We want 5,000. So tell a friend. We'd greatly appreciate that. It would mean a lot. And don't forget, we'd love to have you a part of Hooker's Corner. Our Patreon page is right there on the link. So we're awaiting Jacob Warren as he will join us. I don't think he truly realizes what a bullet he dodged if he'd have been drafted by Bill Belichick the year before. I've been told by NFL scouts and people that have worked in that franchise that is the most, I feel uncomfortable and tense when I go to work place in the NFL by far, that it's awful.
But my question to you is, if that gets you, if would you rather have that, but be in a system that's conducive to you, that could get you a big contract, or be in a player friendly, maybe better for your mental health, but you may not get the contract you would have gotten playing for Belichick? Because here's my question: what you're telling me about Belichick, is it Saban the same way? Is it Nick Saban the exact same way? Isn't everybody intense going to work with Nick Saban?
Yeah, I mean, my thing is, once I win that championship, it's all up for grabs, so to speak. So I'm going to go get paid. But like, if let's say I'm Jalen Wright and I win a championship with the Dolphins, which he could do, and he's got that ring. I mean, to me, it's still all about that ring at the end of the day. And then when I've got that, I'll go get paid. But I would do the Randy Moss thing, and he went to the Patriots, and you never thought that would work out, but it did. And he kissed rear to field one of the greatest teams of all time that didn't win a Super Bowl, but it certainly looked like it was going to.
Yeah, I agree. And by the way, it didn't win a Super Bowl because people don't want to admit this, but Bill Belichick has very big weaknesses, which is one of those is he was way too conservative in Super Bowl games. And that was the game where he was too conservative in. And so I agree. I just wonder, so would you rather, if you were an assistant coach, Dave, would you rather coach under Bill Belichick or Nick Saban? Who would scare you more? Who do you think is scarier to work for? Nick Saban or Bill Belichick? Where you're just got bad health going to the hospital.
I mean, I know from people that have worked for him, it's Belichick. It's not close. That Saban's hard. Yeah, that Saban's hard, but he's a lot more fair, and I don't think there's as much dog cussing.
Probably true. Well, Saban, I think I will tell you this. I talk about Rick Barnes being really religious. Saban is like an actual, like, real Catholic. You know, I know that. I know the story.
He goes to mass. Doesn't he go to mass every Sunday, I believe?
He goes to a really tiny mass in Tuscaloosa. He went to a larger one back in the day, but unfortunately, Alabama fans found out, so everybody decided to go to mass. So,
okay. Would anybody on the message board actually bug a guy while he's in church, while he's trying to save his soul? Say, hey, do you care to autograph his mini helmet for me?
I mean, they did. And, you know, by the way, half of them are probably like hardcore Protestants who probably, maybe some of them even have like we're taught some maybe unsavory things about Catholics.
They don't even agree with the Catholic dogma, but that's not going to stop them from getting that that mini helmet signed. I'm bringing a mini helmet in and sign that dad blame thing. I don't care if you're Catholic or Protestant or Muslim or what you are. Just sign my mini helmet.
Oh, I know. If a coach was a member of like if they were a member of like some like ISIS supporting branch in Tuscaloosa, but they were winning games, I guarantee you a lot of people would be like, you know, man, that ISIS, they got a point. So, I'm telling you what happened.
No, with Tennessee moving forward, I brought up the case, and we can get into this another time. We have discussed it, but it's online, and I would like for people to check it out. I made a pretty strong argument for Tyler Barron and Wesley Walker to return to Tennessee. Can you kind of restate? We talked about it last week, but can you kind of restate where you stand on that? I mean, my argument was I would take him back, and I would take both of them back because I thought they were productive players. But we can discuss that later. We got our guy right now, Jacob, joining us now. Jacob Warren on the program. Look at him.
What's up?
Jacob, how are you?
I'm fantastic. Woke up not too long ago out here in coastal Middle Tennessee, visiting some friends. So,
nice.
I'm great.
Well, congratulations signing with the Patriots, a great organization. But I know how hard you worked to get ready. What was the first thing you ate after either your workouts or after you signed, or what was the go-to meal?
I'm actually trying to think. It was great. We had on Saturday, we had it wasn't like no draft party or nothing, but my mom had grilled some chicken and made some broccoli and some mac and cheese and everything. And my dad was there, obviously, and just my brother was there. And it was like a little close-knit little lunch that we had, but it was like 3:30, right? So I was like, okay, I'm not really that hungry. My mom was like, you want to get some dinner to celebrate? I was like, I'm not really hungry. I think that might have been just because of the emotions kind of coming through. Whatever.
Oh,
did we lose Jake? Oh, let's bring.
Sorry, we lost you, Jake.
Go ahead. The emotions are coming through. Go ahead.
Kick me out, dude. But no, I don't know if I ate a single thing the rest of the night. That's kind of how it felt. I don't know. It felt weird. I wasn't hungry. I was just excited. You couldn't get a smile off my face, and I don't know. It felt great. But
Smoky Mountain Red on our message board says, "Ask how it feels to finally achieve a lifelong goal. Extremely happy for him," is what Smoky Mountain Red says. And what does that feel like? Is it? I wonder if it's settled in yet.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't think it does really settle in until you're wearing the colors, and I'm sure I'll be up there hearing about it a couple weeks, week and a half. I'm sure, man, the moment I drive up to a facility and start shaking everybody's hands and meeting people that I've watched for years and years and years, that are on my team now, right? That I get to call teammates, getting the gear, getting all that stuff. I think that's whenever it'll really, hit me. But still, being able to just reach the level that, I've reached with my career, just till now, right? I'm very, very happy and proud of. But thank you for saying that, man. It is special and it's really cool. And I'm sure here in the next few weeks, I'll definitely be able to have a better answer for you. So
Jacob, you're going to play for, or you signed with a team led by a former Vol as a head coach in Gerard Mayo. A couple of questions, just kind of a two-parter one, and then a follow-up. Have you spoken with him yet? And do you feel any added pressure playing for a former Vol or going to play for a former Vol?
One, haven't spoken with him directly. I've spoken with a few people and said we all get in touch early this week. So I assume, next couple of days we'll kind of get on the phone with him and square out some things and just get something figured out. But I definitely think it's cool, man. It's something that obviously now that I am an alumni or whatever, I'm a VFL, as we would call it. It's cool to think about just the future and how connections like that are going to end up keep popping up. And you're going to have really good friendships or relationships, bonds with these people, and you never met them in your life, but you feel like you're already family. You feel close to one another, and again, never met them, but I'm sure that's probably how it'll feel just because of this similarity we have.
I know Jacob's schedule more than I should at times. Like I'm stalking him because I know when he goes on vacation, because we're lining up the podcast every week. So right. I know you vacation in warm weather spots. I hate to tell you, but It's not real warm up in New England. What are your thoughts on the weather?
Well, that's not vacation. That's work. So I think whenever I'm not at work, I'll probably be somewhere warm.
Amen to that. And the heater works, right? As long as the heater works in the car near your house.
I'll spend extra for the working AC unit. Don't worry about it.
I always ask every player that goes through this, what's it like watching the draft unfold, especially when you might be a mid to late rounder? It just seems like it would be pure torture to me.
It's tough just because, you, as much as you've heard, like I heard the whole process, the whole way through, right? It was probably priority free agent, undrafted free agent. Like it'll be a post-draft decision deal, all that stuff, which was accurate, right? But that's what I've been hearing from my agent. That's what I hear from scouts. Like I kind of knew that that's where I was going to be. But then again, hopeful and it's an exciting time and everything. So you sit there on the couch and you watch, the rounds go by and you just sit there and just, oh, this could be it. I talked to this team early on in the process, where I've been talking to them a little bit more recently, and they got a pick here in the late round. Like, kind of get your hopes up a little bit. And then, you just kind of have to remember and tell yourself, just honestly, like, it does not matter when, doesn't matter where, end of the day. It's just a matter of what you do whenever you show up. And if you can affect people and play good ball and people enjoy being around you, then you have a lot of success.
Jacob, let me ask you this. When you came to Tennessee, there weren't a lot of players in the NFL from Tennessee, not compared to like back in the 90s.
Sure. Yeah.
And now this class appears to be part of a trend where talent is going up. from a recruit standpoint, put yourself in that position. How important was that to you, knowing that a program could get you ready for the NFL?
Yeah. So I guess whenever I was coming out of high school, the players that were just coming out, it was Alvin Kamara, it was Derek Barnett, Josh Dobbs, just Jalen Reeves-Maybin. There's a lot of players that, were played in the NFL, right? Cam Sutton, like these players are really, really good players. And I would always get the question whenever I was committed to Tennessee or whenever someone would ask me, hey, if you got an offer from, XYZ, would you go? You can go to the NFL from there. And I'm like, dude, you can go to the NFL from anywhere, right? And it's true, right? And there's people, like there's a guy from, Holy Cross or something that went the other day, and a guy from Western Michigan. Like you can go from wherever, it doesn't matter. Like it's the same way as high school. Everybody wants people nowadays, and this is just my opinion, right? It's whatever. Kids transferring high schools and moving all around and stuff like that, trying to win a lot of games and get noticed, right? I think if you dominate where you're at and you take care of business and handle things that you're supposed to handle, you'll find a way. And obviously that was the case for a lot of guys, in my class and the past couple of classes from Tennessee is, we handled business, right? And did what we were supposed to do on the field, and just created a good culture in the locker room to where nobody's got to lie for you, right? We're good locker room guys and show up and compete. So I think that's kind of not the reason that we've had a lot of success and we've made it. I mean, a lot of guys have kind of made that next step, but it definitely helps having a program like Tennessee to kind of back you up and develop you.
Jacob, talk a little bit about you. You're going the same place Joe Milton went. Have you guys spoken at all? And what are your thoughts on you and Joe Milton both going to New England?
Yeah, I let the dust settle a little bit on that. I'll probably give him a call later today. I know his two phones are probably blowing up right now. But no, I'll give him a call later and just talk to him, man. It's cool to think about because rarely does that happen. Where two guys end up on the same team and whether that's two guys just from Tennessee in general, right? Like you end up on a team with a guy with another VFL guy, but for the same class and us to end up in the same spot is really cool. I'm excited, man. I really am. I know I've talked very, very highly of Joe. I see the comment now in the section talking about please give Milton some love from the message board. And thank you, Mr. Drinker, for the congratulations. I appreciate it. But nah, man, y'all know exactly how I feel about Joe and know that I support him 100%. And obviously I have new quarterbacks now too. Drake May was one taken, in the first round. And so it'll be awesome to just see him, right, and be able to be around him still and just have a familiar face. There's also a kid named, he's not a kid, he's older than me, but a guy named Cole Strange was a guy that we maybe have talked about on this podcast before.
Center?
Yeah, I went to high school with him.
Yeah.
He went to Chattanooga, and I went to high school with him. And, we sat really close in the locker room. He was actually the starting tight end my sophomore year, and then ends up moving to guard, tackle, center, and O-line whenever he got to college. But last year 2 years ago maybe now. Last year. Doesn't matter. Whatever. And so one of the first things I thought about whenever I get the call from them is, oh, wow, I'll be up there with Mr. Cole. So, a lot of familiar faces, man. I'm excited to get up there and, just be a part of it.
Well, I'm happy for you. I think when I think back on it, you were the very first hire I made with offthehooksports.com. And it was one of the smartest decisions I ever made. You've been incredible for what we do. I can't begin to thank you enough. And I'm rooting for you. I want that Warren jersey.
Oh, yeah.
I want to be up there. I want you to vouch for me when I call about the press credentials. I'm not even joking. But, yeah, Jacob's like, I know you're not. Jacob's like,
you'll text me. I know it.
Jacob's like, I thought you were joking around. You were talking about that damn podcast 2 years ago.
Now it does.
Jacob Vega, buddy, I'm rooting for you, man. We all love you to death, and you did a lot for Tennessee's program, and you're going to be fantastically successful, whether it's the NFL or whatever. And we do appreciate the time.
Of course. Thank you guys as well. It's good to see
Thanks,
you.
buddy. Man, he's as good as they come. He just is as good as a young man as they come. I'm so blessed to get to work with him. So blessed. And I mean, it just unbelievable. And blessed to work with Caleb Calhoun as well. Speaking of, this has been a presentation of Off the Hook Sports. Have a fantastic day, everyone. We talk to you weekdays at 10 a.m.